Oh, so this is the thanks I get for working overtime.
To quote Milano's American import running back, Jacques Crawford, it's great to be back. We're back after taking off last week. Had some heat issues up here in the state of Maine, so unfortunately we were unable to continue. Shout out to Sam. What's up, my man? Thank you for watching as always. Yeah, I'm Michael Washington. This is the Milano Seamen quarterback, Zack Bronkhorst. Zach, is sorry about last week, my man. I know you were geared up and ready to go. Just had some unfortunate things happen over this way.
Yeah, I'm glad y'all got that figured out back home. Yeah, I mean, quick turnaround for us last week. So things were kind of going on all cylinders. So, yeah, I mean, glad to be back.
Definitely glad to be back. I gotta figure this camera thing out because, like, I'm blue. Like, it's weird. I don't understand why I'm blue. Like, you got a nice clear camera over there, and I'm like, I don't know. I was looking at it. I'm like, man, I got to give myself a better camera. It looks like
it's just that inner Panther coming out.
Yeah, that's what it is. We'll call it my inner Panther for Warclaw for sure. Zach, first and foremost, congratulations on your on the win against Barcelona last week. I know that we discussed a little bit off air about what your hopes were heading into the bye week, and so far it looks like it's possible it could happen. Obviously, you got a game this week coming up against Vierfar, so. First and foremost, anything that you have that you want to add about that game? We'll just start right off with just Milano right off the jump, just because.
No, man. I mean, having Jock Crawford come in, I know there's a lot of speculation and questioning of it, and I mean, he came in great shape and he was ready to compete, and it was fun watching him tote the rock and get back on the ELF stage. I know that's where he's been wanting to be for a long time, ever since he left Berlin a few years ago. So it's exciting, just exciting to see the guys, starting to believe and everybody working as a unit. So I'm excited. Another good opponent coming in this week. So just got to keep our momentum going. That's pretty much what the message is.
Sam wanted to support your future in broadcasting, just so you know, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to continue. I'd love to continue doing.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I would love to have you as a co-host for as long as you would like. To be honest with you, I really think that this is working out nicely. We didn't get a chance to talk about Jock Crawford because obviously we didn't have a show last week. I'll be honest, I was a little surprised that you guys brought in another A import at the running back position, because I thought after Patrick Carr was let go that we wouldn't see another A import at running back in the league.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely looked like it was a good decision. It looks like you guys already have some pretty good chemistry in there. Did he just pick up right where he left off? Is that what it felt like?
Yeah, I mean, he's a veteran in Europe. He lives full-time in Berlin now with his family. He was just playing for the Marines down in Rome at the end of their season. So he was already in Italy. He's been around the Italian culture for a few weeks now, before he even came to us. The dude just wants to play football, and he loves playing football in Europe. He loves playing football in the ELF, and he had a presence when he came in that was very similar to that of Zach Blair, another European veteran. And I think that it's a great piece to add to a locker room. So as great as his play is on the field, I think his locker room presence was an addition that, I mean, kind of goes unnoticed. But we felt it as a team. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Well, all right. Let's jump in. I mean, there's as always, coming out of every week, there's always some movement. There's always some changes, some big things that happen. Let's start in with the breaking news that's come out over the last couple of days. Wednesday generally finalizes it. We don't really have much more that comes out after Wednesday. Occasionally, some things might pop up IR-wise, but overall, Wednesday seems to be the day where just kind of everything's out there for the most part. So, what do you have for us today, Zach?
Yeah, I'm gonna start right here at home first. We unfortunately did release Marquise Manning. I think it was either Monday or Tuesday when they announced it officially. He was sitting on the IR. He wants to continue playing, so I really just wish him the best. I think he's going to be able to stay in Europe and play for as long as he wants to. He's a great cornerback. The injury situation, he just had like a little injury that occurred to where he would be out for a few weeks, and we had to get somebody in. So it stinks. It's just a matter of professional football, but we've been trying to help him out as like his friends and get him somewhere else to continue playing. I'm sure there's stuff in the works. So I'm not at liberty to say, but
Of course.
I think he's definitely going to find a place in Europe. So shout out Marquise. Would love to continue to have him on the team, but professional football, I mean, things happen. It is what it is. So that was one. And then obviously Prague making all sorts of moves. I'm going to stick kind of with the quarterbacks. They signed Anthony Perkins today, or I believe today. Last seen in the LFA for the Reyes, I believe. And rumors are though that it was not finalized before the Tuesday cutoff day, and that as I predicted earlier, the quarterback coach, Clark Hazlitt, also known as Adventure QB on YouTube, may be a fill-in for this game this Saturday or Sunday, whichever one they play on. I did predict that I think going into week 1 that we might see him at some point this year. I do think that this might be the time that we actually see that. So, yeah, do you have anything to add on that one?
Yeah, no, I haven't. I haven't seen anything official yet as far as Clark is concerned yet. I mean, I'll be honest. I've been a little bit lack on social media today, so I'm not 100% sure. I did see that there was a chance that he was probably going to be a 1-week fill-in, similar to what Case and Martin did for the Raiders, and that David Perkins, who was actually with the Hefes, not Reyes.
That's it. Hefes, yeah.
He was with the Hefes. Did sign and will likely be with the Prague moving forward after this week. So. Yeah, did Kyrie Lyles get? I'm assuming got released. I didn't see the official
thing. Yeah, I didn't see an official statement, which kind of puzzles me and irritates me at the same time.
Yeah.
I would really love to know if he was, banged up. I'm sure they just got a bunch of stuff going on there at Prague. But as a quarterback, as a fellow quarterback in this league, I'd love to, see official statements, not just hearsay, especially when it comes to moves like that.
Right. Yeah, and I think for the most part, I think everybody kind of had an idea that Clark Hazlitt may end up, playing for 1 game or 2 games, depending on, what happened. And to be honest with you, it seems like it might be a little bit of the starting of a foundation for some of these teams moving forward to kind of bring in an import quarterback coach just to have in case something like this happens. I don't know if that's going to be the trend or not, but football is very much a trendy thing. And if they see it in one area, it may follow suit. So who knows? And yes, Sam, I agree with you. Marquise is a great guy. So hopefully he gets back and lands on his feet. I don't know how you feel about the move. I like David Perkins a lot. He played really well for the Hefes last year, this past year in the LFA. They had a great running game. He was a 1-2. It was a 1-2 threat with Tim Whitfield. It was just not as consistent as I would have liked. I don't know how much of that was the playmakers' issues as much as it was, maybe it was a coaching thing with him. But they had a great season. I mean, they were the number 2 seed moving into the playoffs. They just happened to run into a buzzsaw with the Raptors at the time. So, which they still almost ended up pulling that game out in the downpour. So, Perkins is a great player, and I think it will help this Prague team, and maybe even under his guidance, once he gets settled in, there's a chance they might finally get their first win in the ELF. So,
now, correct me if I'm mistaken. Was he on Stuttgart last year for like a fill-in game or something like that? I think I saw something like that, right?
I don't know if it was last year. It might have been the year before, because last year I don't believe Hennessy got.
He was banged up last year. He had thumb surgery in the middle of the year last year.
Yeah, I don't remember who they had fill in though, but I don't think it was Perkins.
I know it was an LFA quarterback. I couldn't remember which one though.
So. I'm drawing a blank on the name. It's possible it could have been Perkins, but I don't remember seeing him or discussing that he had come in. But it's very possible he may have because. It was my first year last year, so I was learning people and the maneuvers and all that stuff. So
yeah. Well, moving forward, another kind of shock to almost the entire league. The Mercenaries releasing their star American DB Ken Hike. That one came as a shock. I'm hearing. I just want to make sure that's known. This is just rumors that it was kind of more of a mutual thing, like he didn't like the situation there, that type of thing. either way, it was still a shock to let such a good playmaker let go in the middle of the year. I'm sure he's going to probably just stay right here in Europe and get signed by someone else, as we're seeing all the different DB moves that are going on. There are rumblings of them picking up a Division I defensive back. I don't know if it's 100% or not yet, so I'm not going to say who it is or anything, but there are rumblings that they already have a guy set to be, moved in for him. But that came as a pretty big shock. Having played against Ken Hike and seeing the type of playmaker that he is on the field, I was pretty shocked by that one. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, it's a surprise because he's been a bright spot on a team that has definitely been not so bright recently after showing some flashes early. And I think that I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of speculation around what possibly could have led to this. It's just Ken Hike is just a guy that I just don't see why you use him as a scapegoat and just release him. It doesn't make sense to me, especially on a team that could use a veteran presence of that sort in that sense. I think he's going to get picked up somewhere. He's a great cornerback, especially in the ELF and the Europe area. So I would be surprised if he was out of a job for very long. I will say what I have read. So I have read that because Around the ELF has posted this. So this is something that I have seen. It is speculated that it's San Jose State Spartan safety Ivory Webb III, who also goes by Trey Webb. That is the guy that they are speculative to possibly be in talks with as far as them bringing him in. And I actually got a chance to see Webb play when he was at San Jose State. So, I mean, he's definitely a difference maker in there. So I don't know if that's what they're just trying to get to see if they can get somebody to be a legit difference maker at that safety position. I don't really think they're going to. I don't see him playing corner. That's the only thing.
That's the interesting. I know they picked up that import corner last week. He was with Cologne, and then he got released by Cologne, and the Mercenaries picked him up. But when we played them, they already had their other American playing safety. So having two American safeties is a little bit of a question mark for me. I mean, maybe they got a plan that we just don't see, but having played against them once already, I mean, I kind of feel like I know their side of the ball a little bit. And yeah, their other American was a safety. He played safety. He moved down to corner whenever we were kind of pushing the lead a little bit, and they wanted to shut it down. But he really played predominantly safety. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that whole dynamic works out for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the deal is with it. Maybe they see something with a possible situation where he is able to move down to maybe play that little hybrid safety linebacker spot. I don't know if that's something that's in the running in Europe or not. I'm sure that they do a lot of studying as far as the NFL is concerned and maybe try to implement some of it, but it's hard to. You have to have a playmaker at that spot. So
yeah,
I'm not sure what they plan on doing with it, and maybe hey, who knows? Maybe they have something in mind that we just can't see yet. So, yeah.
Other news: Ravens had a big day today of releasing players. First off, starting off with another USDB, maybe future landing spot for Ken Hike now. USDB Josh Flowers was released by the Ravens. D lineman Dominique Siegel, who's actually a German national team player. I know that one was very surprising for a lot of Ravens fans to see him get released. And then last one, Raphael Zisler got released as well. So 3 people released by the Ravens coming off that Stuttgart loss. Josh, he seemed like he was a pretty solid corner when we played him. So maybe they just felt like they weren't getting the productivity out of him that they expected. I'm sure, like I said, this might be a new landing spot for Ken Hike. They've already seen Ken Hike on film, so and played against him last year. But yeah, the big one was really their defensive line. They have a really solid defensive line, but releasing Dominic Siegel, who's a German national team player and a really solid interior defensive lineman, was kind of a surprise to me. And I think reading through the comments, there's a little bit of surprise to Ravens fans as well. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that one as well?
I mean, I think in general, it's just I know the Ravens defense had been questioned in the or obviously week one, and then against Stuttgart they gave up 38 in that game. So maybe they're just trying to find something to try to put them over that hump against those top teams in the league because of the hype that was surrounding them coming in, and maybe it was just a performance thing where they're just not living up to the hype at this point in time. So they're making some moves. I do want to say that I did read that there was some grumblings that Flowers may have been ready just to go home. I don't know if it was a mutual thing. I'm not sure. I got the vibe from some of the comments that I was reading and some of the people that I've talked to about it that it felt like that he's ready to get back home and ready to train and just get back to work over here in the States. Again, I don't know how true that is. That's just the vibe I got from some of the things that I was reading. So, but as far as their national German lineman is concerned, that one surprised me probably the most because I really don't think he played that poorly. I went back and watched the game against Stuttgart, and to be honest with you, I didn't feel like he was the weaker of the two defensive tackles. So, on that D line. So it does come as a surprise to me, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's a national team player, so I'm sure one of these German teams that are looking to kind of bolster up their defensive line. I'll jump on that one real quick. I don't see him staying on the waiver wire for too long at all. Munich's just kind of in a little bit of a limbo state right now. Of like they've lost to Stuttgart twice now. They've lost to Tyrol. They're sitting at 2-3 or 2-3, I believe, and they're just kind of in that limbo mode of like they're just where are they? Like they need to get ready for that next Tyrol game and really pull that one out to put themselves in playoff contention. But yeah, that's a interesting situation that's kind of unfolding in Munich.
Yeah, we talked a little bit last night about Munich because of the interesting way that these the interesting way that the conferences are working out or what they're looking at this point in time. And the Eastern and Central conferences have a couple teams that are just like right on the cusp there that aren't quite in that upper echelon. And we were talking a little bit about it, and we spent a lot of time talking about Munich just because they definitely needed to do something to try to put to light a fire under this team because at 2-3, it's definitely not where they expected to be. And after another Stuttgart loss, last week, there's no way that they can be happy with being 2-3 after 5 weeks. So maybe that's what this is. Maybe it's just like a statement saying, "Hey, nobody's protected." So I wouldn't be surprised to see like a team like Berlin to try to hop on.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Speaking of Munich, though, we didn't get to talk about it last week. Malik Stanley got signed by Munich whenever they put John Cole on the IR. Straight out of Mexico, winning the LFA championship, top receiver in the LFA this past season. Went straight in stride into the ELF. Led, I think he had like 98 yards receiving. Dude's an animal. He had like a slant route that he broke like 5 tackles on and ended up making it like a 45, 50-yard play. Dude's a beast. He killed it in Mexico. He's probably going to continue killing it in the ELF. I think that was a really good signing for them. Just that big, tall target. I think that Chad Jeffries to Malik Stanley duo will be pretty legendary as this season kind of unfolds.
And Athletes Forum, thank you again for joining in for the second night. You were here last night with us. This is overtime. This is where I talk with Zach about the breaking news and stuff. But yes, the thing with Malik Stanley that was great about seeing this, or what was even better, is you saw what you saw last week, but now they have a bye week this week. So now it's going to give them even a little more time to kind of mesh and gel and hopefully get on the same page with Chad. Because I did feel like that for as good as Malik played, there were still some opportunities left on the field in this game against Stuttgart. So that offense felt a little rough, and I don't think it was necessarily Malik Stanley. I just think it was just new faces, new pieces in place. And like you said before, when we first started this, it's very hard to gel right away because you're not doing the 2-a-days, 5 days a week, type of stuff. So, but it will be nice to see what he does moving forward. I'm excited to see him in the ELF. I love him as a player, and I enjoyed watching him down in the LFA last year.
Kind of transitioning, still talking about that game. Luis Geyer, like that dude
It's a
is
beast.
he's going to be up for homegrown player of the year, 100%.
Oh.
Like having seen him in person and then watching last week, just his production in general, like he is their number one receiver. They have an American receiver, and he is still their number one receiver. And every team is having to put their American DB on him because he's that guy. He's young. I think he's 22, 23.
Yeah, he's not very old at all.
Yeah, he's continuing to grow and progress his game and become a better route runner. He always had that athleticism and jump ball ability and explosive speed. Now he's becoming more of a cleaner route runner, and that's going to be really dangerous. And I mean, if he really wanted to, he could probably play elsewhere outside of Europe coming up, still, being that young. So that's exciting to see. I mean, him and that Hennessy connection, man. We got MVP Hennessy and Homegrown Player of the Year Guy are coming up this year.
Well, I love the fact that you mentioned MVP Hennessy because we did talk a little bit about some early candidates on the MVP side yesterday, and I was going to get your thoughts on it as well. Do you have any other news before we go into that, or?
I mean, we talked kind of about the Prague stuff. Do you have any other? Else you've seen?
I didn't really see anything. I know the Panthers made a few moves, but I know that they have an American wide receiver. I think they're bringing in. I think Matt Cole is going back on IR, I feel awful for him because we had a great
game. 2 touchdowns.
Yes.
I was seeing him doing backflips in the end zone. Dancing. I was like, oh yeah. He's about to go crazy. Back on the IR.
Yeah, he was looking good. I did miss where or who it was. I mean, I saw it, but I think it's buried. I didn't remember the name off the top of my head. I can probably try to go through the
receiver they're bringing in. Wasn't it like Josiah or something like that?
Yeah. I don't remember his name. Oh, I wish I would have looked at it more. Yeah. Like I said, I've been a little absent on social media this week. So if anybody in the comments, Athletes Forum, you were really good last night with correcting me on some things that I missed. If there is something there. Right here. Josiah Norwood.
Yeah.
23-year-old. He's from UCLA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another there's talent out there that's free agents, guys. That's all I got to say. I'm excited to see what happens with him, but I feel bad for Matt Cole because it does sound like he went on IR again. So that's the only other piece of news that you didn't get that I got there. So
gotcha. Yeah, then we can transition to the MVP talks.
Well, so the ELF, page in Athletes Forum corrected me yesterday with it as far as the 4 pieces were concerned. It was Riley Hennessy, Jacob Sullivan, who I've been slamming the table for that he should be in the discussion, Glenn Tunga, and AJ Wentland. Those were the 4 guys that they posted on the thing. Out of the 4, or even not out of the 4, I mean, is it Riley Hennessy for you as the front runner at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, the dude's got over 1,100 yards now, 14 touchdowns. His first turnover last week against probably one of the better opponents that they're going to face the entire year. His quarterback rating is off the charts. Completion percentage is sitting around 71%, I think, something like that. I mean, when you're completing 71% of your passes and you're already sitting at 14 touchdowns, you're going to be at the top of that MVP discussion. Sullivan definitely deserves to be up there. He's been slipping under the radar. Berlin's had some tough losses. Like, they're playing great on offense. There's just some little things that occur in those games that they've been in where they can't pull them out at the end of the game. But Jacob Sullivan definitely deserves to be up there. Glenn is carrying the fire right now. Oh, my gosh, he is carrying. They're just giving him the rock 30 times a game. But like I said, I think after the Bravos loss that they should have let Glenn cook. Like, he was getting going, behind the offensive line. Offensive line was pushing people off the ball, resetting the line of scrimmage. And Glenn was cooking, and they just kind of went away from it. And you saw how that game ended up for him. And then ever since then, it seems like they must have been listening to the podcast because Glenn's averaging like 30, 35 touches a game and over 150 yards. So, I mean, I think they made the right decision. He's already at like 750 yards rushing on the season, I think. And they're 4 games in or 5 games in. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty.
He's going to be making a push for 2K on this year. So yeah, he's definitely up there for MVP contention. And AJ's well deserving. I'm going to make my Zach Blair push though, since I have this public forum. Name one defensive player that is on every single top 5 defensive category except for interceptions, other than Zach Blair, because you can't.
Exactly.
TFLs, sacks, tackles, probably minutes played, block kicks. Number 1. He doesn't have an interception yet, but he had a forced fumble for a touchdown last week. I mean, the dude is all over the field. I mean, we would have no defense if it wasn't for him. Like I said, AJ, nothing but respect for him. He's an outstanding linebacker. They're both making strong cases for the American linebacker to stay in Europe. But I mean, he's top 5 in every single defensive category except for interceptions. So,
hey, I'm just saying because I'm assuming you weren't able to catch the show last night, but Athletes Forum did. I made a case for Zach Blair last night. I got your back. Don't worry. I made a case for it. Is there anybody outside those 4 that they mentioned that you think is a dark horse or could be a potential dark horse that could, as the season goes on? There's one that I mentioned that was pretty obvious, and I said Zach Edwards. I don't know if I took that from you or not, but like he was my like guy that like is not being talked about right now, but it was one of the things that I mentioned moving forward. Is there anybody outside of that you see possibly that could be
I made my case for Zach Blair already, but Zach Edwards, I mean, it's just kind of been tough because I think they've already had their 2 bye weeks knocked out of the way within the first 5 weeks, so that's really tough, especially for like those early season predictions. I think at the beginning of the year I predicted that they were going to win it all and he was going to make an MVP run. So I really think that he can still do that, especially now, once they get rolling and they'll have straight games now rather than game by game, that type of thing. But I mean, yeah, I think Zach are 2 of my dark horses that were left off of that list for sure.
And I'm really beginning to feel like that if your first name is Zach, go play in Europe, because I think that that's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
When we come back from our quick little break here, we have our sponsor commercial that I'm going to run. But when we come back, we will get into a little bit of the previews and predictions for next week as well, because there's 8 games on the slate instead of 6 this week. So we got a full slate of games coming towards you. But first, current.
This is Current. It's the card my parents used to pay me for mowing the lawn, running errands, and doing well in school.
Oh, wow.
This is the card I used when we got the idea to make our own clothes. And we spread the word, drove downtown, and sold everything we made. This is the card I used to do the things that really matter. This is Current. Visit current.com and download the app for free today.
Go do it. Go download Current, use it, hit our code up in that case as well, and whatnot. I also wanted to mention something real quick, by the way. Sheldon Epler, over 700 yards already in 2 games.
Yeah,
Insane. I mentioned it last night too, but that's nuts to me, man. It's crazy.
And shout out Reese Horn too.
Reese Horn, man.
The dude can still ball. Like 230 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, and those plays were not easy plays. Like he wasn't like a lot of contended catches that he was taking down. Like he's been doing it forever. He played for our organization and won the Italian Bowl with them. And our new OC, Coach Adana, was the OC when he was here, and he speaks nothing but great things about Reese. And shoot, I wish we had him on our team. I'll tell you what. But yeah, I mean, Shelton's looking great. But when you have a guy like Reese and Jordan Bua, who's sadly hurt now. I mean, those are some great guys to throw the ball to. And, shout out Shelton. Over 700 whatever yards in 3 games or 4 games.
2.
That's wild. 2 games, yeah.
2 games. He's over 700 already. Yeah.
It
was nuts, man. It was nuts. Reese Horn is, his play style reminds me a lot of like a Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Like, he's very, very much like a Cooper Kupp-esque type player. And those are always dangerous. I mean, you saw it last year with Puka Nacua over there in the Rams. It's the same thing here in Europe. So, all right. Let's jump into it. I mean, there's 8 games on the slate. We'll cover it. You're gonna do a little bit of recap / predictions for these games as well. I did a chunk of mine last night. We'll get your scores down or you'll write the scores down and stuff this week. I'm assuming. Are you prepared for that? Okay, yeah. See, look at this. Zach's all on it. Look at this. This is I'm so unprepared on the original summer showcase. It's I've learned from you. I've started to be prepared for that, so I have mine down from last night as well. Athletes Forum wanted to say you got to bring Bua back home next season. So
yeah, I mean that's going to be a lot of money. I'll tell you what. That's all I'm going to say. That'd be a lot of money to get Bua back home. So, well, I mean, everybody here would love to have him back home, but they treat him like a rock star up there in Vienna.
Yeah, I mean, and Jordan's a hell of a player. So, I'm glad to see him. It's sad he's hurt. Hopefully, it's a speedy recovery and we can see him back on the field before long. All right. Barcelona and the Raiders T-Roll, first game on the slate, doesn't look pretty on paper.
Yeah, I mean, T-Roll's rolling right now. Adding N'Kosi Perry to that offense, I think, going into their first week with him, I was interested to see if they would let him be N'Kosi Perry and be the dual threat playmaker that he is. And so far, they've shown that that's exactly what they're going to do and let him be him and make plays and, run all over the field, scramble drill plays, zone read, that type of stuff. And they've been balling since he took over. They had the Munich win we sadly didn't get to recap last week. And then last week just kind of cruised right through the Mercenaries. I know there was some rain delay and issues with the field. I don't know if anybody on here saw the highlights or watched the game of that, but there was no lines on the field at all.
None.
It was
they washed them all away.
Craziest scene I've ever. I was like, how do you know where to spot the ball? What is going on? So, they just cruised through the Mercenaries in adverse conditions. And the Dragons, man, their defense is not bad. They have some pieces there that, they could do what I think they're going to do better this go around against Tyrol for sure. I know they're kind of reeling and trying to get things back on track. I am going to go to roll on this one. I do think the Dragons will put up a better fight than they did the first time. I think they'll take it a little bit personal. They kind of got just whipped straight up last time. So I'm going 43-10 to roll. I do predict Dragons come out a little bit though with some fire though, and at least make it interesting for the first half.
Yeah, T-Roll cannot come out like they did last week. I know you said they cruised through Helvetic, but that game was 16-10 late in the third. So it was a pretty fourth quarter. The first 2.5, 2 and 3/4 quarters were not the most Raiders-like-esque type of ball. So hopefully they don't do that this week. This Dragons offensive line is horrible. I'm sorry, it might be one of the worst ones in the league. I don't know if they expected that the ravaging that the Madrid did to this national team was going to hurt them this badly. But Levi Lewis is really, he's played well for what he could, but he's really struggling back there because he's has so much pressure on him all the time. Unfortunately, the Raiders have one of the best defenses in the league. My score is very close to yours. You said put up a fight. I was thinking you were going to be closer to what Randy predicted, but I'm 41-6 in favor of the T-Roll Raiders in this.
Yeah. I saw what you're talking about, early game to roll against Mercenaries. Definitely did not look like a normal to roll, but I know the game was delayed, I think, for 2 or 3 hours, and as you saw by the field, there's puddles everywhere, That takes a toll on a team, especially when you're on the road and just trying to get ready for that game. So I do think they need to come out with more fire, like you said, and kind of attack them from the start. But I think the Dragons will be able to match it a little bit. But yeah, I think it gets away from them late.
Yeah, the second game, one of the big games of the weekend, because there's a couple of big games here on the weekend as well. The Warclaw Panthers, they traveled to Vienna to take on the Vikings, and this is a big game for the Panthers because they need to be able to try to keep pace with Vienna. So what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings are rolling right now. They have one of the top defenses in the league. Everybody's known this from the beginning, and now with Shelton Epler and Reese Horn, that connection setting off, and the run game being what it is for them, they look like some serious title contenders. Everybody, I mean, I know it's kind of a running joke that they were in the East. They're the pretenders, not the contenders, type thing.
Right.
But they look for real. And I know last time what happened with the end of the game and Stephen Duncan and everything and kind of giving that lead away and Panthers fans having a bad taste in their mouth. Well, this is their chance for revenge. But the Panthers have been improving. I mean, watching the film on them against the Enthroners last week, Yerby looks much more comfortable back there in the pocket. He still had 2 turnovers. They weren't interceptions; they were fumbles. But I mean, still those 2 turnovers. So that we need to get that cleaned up for sure if you want to beat the Vikings. But yeah, I mean, if they did lose Cole, like you said, that's a huge loss, especially going into this week. That sucks for the Panthers. I do think the Vikings do take this one and kind of just run through the division or the rest of the conference. I do got Vikings winning this one 38-27. I do think Yerby, though, puts up a fight. And, I mean, they're running. I can't pronounce. Is it David or David? David?
It's Dawid.
DeWitt, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he's any other. If you're not named Glenn, that's the best running back in Europe.
Yes.
So, I mean, he's a great player. Just now got his first touchdown of the year, though, last week, which is crazy.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah, he had like 500, 600 yards on the ground and 1 touchdown. I was like, gee, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they put up a fight, but I think Vikings are just too much. They're on a roll. I'm going to be really interested to see if Shelton keeps cooking and that Reese Shelton connection keeps, doing his thing. What happens when Ben Holmes comes off IR? Because they're looking very explosive on offense, and with that defense, that's very dangerous. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Athletes Forum wanted to let us know it says it's pronounced David.
David.
And then he went on to say that the Polish are using the W for no reason. So I've always heard it Dawid but it might just be that they don't realize it's pronounced David either. So this game is, and Athletes Forum did say that these are the games that the Panthers have to win in order to contend. And I completely agree. It has 100%. They need to get him Brzozowski. I think it's Brzozowski. Doesn't sound right to me. But anyways, they got to get him involved more often because last year he was the catalyst for how this team was able to produce and grind out wins. The game against Vienna where they lost 17-13 or 16-13 and Stephen Duncan got released, they kind of got away from that late. They put too much on Stephen Duncan in that game when they easily could have just been like, they have 2 running backs that are fantastic. Both the guys that they have back there are sensational, so they got to use them more to control the clock in this game. I expect this game to be close.
Yeah,
I think John Irbe is looking a lot better. Like you said, I think he's a little more comfortable back there. Their offensive line is still one of the better offensive lines in football. However, Vienna's just really good. And Shelton Epler, we talked about it, 700 yards in 2 games is insane.
Yeah.
I picked Vienna to win this game 28-24. I just think it's going to be the Panthers, if they really want the revenge to show that they are better than what they did in that game against Stephen Duncan, or with Stephen Duncan, then they will need to come out and make a statement early. If they make a statement early, I think that they are good enough just to stay ahead of Vienna to be able to win this game. But I don't expect that per se because I think Vienna's just too good and balanced overall. So I think they etch out a close game in this one.
Yeah, and if you're Panthers fans, you got to be asking, where's Adams? Getting to the Adams. Like we saw in week 1, receiving touchdown, getting involved in all aspects of the game, in the backfield, at slot receiver, in the empty formations. Like, where is he at? That was a huge signing, getting him from Potsdam last year. Really love to see him getting more involved in the offense. You got that 2-headed monster at running back.
Yep.
I mean, David's going to do what David's going to do, and he's going to cook, and he's a really good downhill running back. But
absolutely,
getting Adams is great in the pass game, great 1-2 punch with David. So I'd love to see him to get more involved in the offense and the game plan. Like watching film because they played the Enthroners last week, it's just like he's kind of just like a piece out there, not really one of the focal points of the offense, which is frustrating. But
yes,
yeah, I think Panthers fans could agree with that one. Why is he not more involved in that one?
correct. I agree wholeheartedly. The next game is another big one on the slate. It's the Rhine Fire at Madrid taking on the Bravos. Bravos look good after the first three games of the season. They look like one of the best teams in the league. They look like they belong in the top four. What's your thoughts on this one? Because Rhine has kind of not been Rhine, but still finding ways to win games.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, Ryan's gonna Ryan. I mean, we're not seeing the same explosiveness that we saw from last year. Just blowing these teams out, defenses pitching shutouts. But I mean, they figure out ways to win, and that's what separates out great winning organizations from mediocre ones is finding ways to win when things aren't going your way. Like last week with the against Berlin. 2 turnovers in the first quarter. That's unprecedented from Ryan, especially Jadrian. Like the pick, great play by their defense. I mean, tip ball, return. Glenn saves the day, runs the guy down. I mean, that dude's a beast. And then I think either the very next drive or 2 drives later, Kyle Kitchen strip sack. I mean, that's with your back against the wall, and Ryan prevailed, and they've been in these situations all year already. I mean, Bravos. I think this bye week with Steven Duncan, that's allowed the offense to kind of develop more. I don't think we saw anything more than a basic offense with them with their first week against Cologne. Just because he got in there like midweek, and like
right.
Such a quick turnaround with getting a new quarterback. You kind of have to keep it basic. You have those like certain gadget plays you put in the game plan just to keep them on their toes on the defense. But I think that bye week came at a great time for them. That allowed Steven to kind of get more acclimated into the offense and better in the game plan. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. I think Ryan really, really, really wants to come out and get revenge. This is going to be a great game. I'm predicting this one is the game of the week for sure. It's kind of a new rivalry. Willie P going in there last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever they played Ryan, whenever that was, and talking about this is our house or whatever, and beating Ryan on the road. That was a pretty brave statement by Willie P. I mean, he's the man though, so he can say that.
I was going to say he's earned that one.
Yeah. But I'm going Fire, getting the revenge on the road this week. I think Bravos Fire trade road wins with each other this year. I foresee this becoming a new rivalry within the league. Just how the two organizations are built up, I think this one's going to be staying around for a long time. I got Fire winning this one in a close one, 28-24.
Nice score. That's very close to mine. That's really close to mine. I am excited to see Glenn Tunga and Dwayne Obi again. I think Athletes Forum posed a question to me about Dwayne Obi, or to the group last night about Dwayne Obi and what his role is going to be in this game if Madrid is going to win. And I feel the same in this game that I do as like Glenn. This Madrid defense is really fast. They are very, very fast. And I think that if there's any defensive team that Ryan has faced that has been able, and we saw it the first game, to be able to kind of control that speed that Glenn Tunga has, it's been this Madrid defense. And I think that we're going to see something very similar. I think Glenn's still going to cook just because it's Glenn Tunga. I mean, let's be honest. But I think Dwayne Obi is going to be the difference maker in this game. I think it's going to be on the Madrid side of the score that's close. And I think it's going to be 27-25. I think Madrid gets the sweep on Ryan this season. And Steven Duncan, I just want to take a minute to shout out Steven Duncan. As a Panthers fan, I thought it was hasty. I did not like the move at all. I'm so happy that Duncan had a very good first game, and hopefully he doesn't make those the mistakes he made with the Panthers for Madrid in this game. And hopefully it's that was just a fluke thing that happened with Vienna. That's all I have to say about that. So we'll spare you the next game, because you're involved with it, the Enthroners and the Seamen in this. Did you want to say any words about the game moving in, or did you already say what you needed to say earlier?
I'm excited to see Robitaille on the field. One of the best receivers in all of Europe, and he's got his quarterback back finally. That being said, I'm not sure how healthy Mengele is on the field. I know his knee was very, very wrapped up last game.
Yeah.
Roby's one of the best receivers in all of Europe. So it's going to be. I'm excited to see him on the field and get to witness him playing. So. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. I know the Italian national team is playing in the Europe Cup at the exact same time as our game, so that's gonna be tough for us fan wise. Because you can't match Italian football
No.
compared to American football, but but it'll be interesting. So you can chat it up if you'd like.
Well, I left this comment up particularly for a reason. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to my co-host Bryce over on Summer Showcase. He predicted you guys were going to win 56-0. I just wanted to let you know that real quick. That was his score prediction. I left this comment up because Athletes Forum in the chat.
Shout out Jamal.
He said, "Love you, Zach. You're my buddy," but then he did this.
Yeah, I know. I saw it.
And he said he's going to predict the Enthroners to win. So, yeah. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think you guys are going to win this game. I predicted you guys to score 28 this week, so I'm steadily increasing on it. I think you guys win 28-12. Jack Mengele, though, is definitely it's an interesting situation because it was nice to see him back on the field because I know that him and Robitaille really looked good in the early stages of the season before Mengele got hurt. But it's been it's still been a struggle for this team overall. And hopefully, in the fingers crossed that they're able to kind of hit strides and be a little more competitive as it goes on. I just don't think that he's fully 100%. I think that he's playing at like 80% or so, and his mobility is definitely very limited, and that could be a nightmare for a guy like Zach Blair across the board. So, for sure. But all right, we'll move on from the Milan game.
Yeah, that's a tough one for this podcast.
And we'll jump into the Mercenaries, Helvetic, and taking on the Stuttgart Surge as well. This game on paper does not look to be very good, at least on paper. I don't know how you're feeling about it. This Helvetic team has shown flashes throughout the season, but it just never has really progressed to anything more than just like the flashes, and that's been about it.
Yeah, whatever the situation was with Ken Hike, that stinks. That's gonna really hurt Mercenaries defense. That is actually probably their strong point. They had a very strong defense, and it stinks to see a playmaker like that leave. But the Surge are cooking. Like that team has championship aspirations. I've been saying it since the beginning. I really think they're making that run. Like I said earlier, this year they got a taste of the championship game, and they know what it takes to get to the championship game. Now they want to finish the job. And having played them and talked to Riley after the game and their players and coaches, like that's the same thing that I felt before that game, and then after talking to them, same exact thing. So. Tough week for the Mercenaries. I know they also lost one of their star defensive linemen. His name is slipping my mind. That was number 97, though.
Tim Haney?
Yeah, Tim Haney. That's a tough one because he was a great player. I know he played for Hamburg back in the Hamburg heyday, and now, he was a huge part of their defense. And then losing Ken Hike, too. Man, that's tough, especially going into this week. So I'm going Surge here. I do think Carlton's going to have a big rushing game. I'm not sure passing-wise what they're going to be able to do against that defense, just because they're able to get so much pressure on the quarterback, and that Helvetic O-line just has had trouble all year. And this is the best D-line that they faced yet, so I think that trouble is going to continue. But I do think Carlton's going to get out and make some things shake and make things happen, and put up some points on the board. I got Surge winning 42-13.
Shout out to Zach there. He turned that game somehow into a 10-minute preview. I don't know how he did it, but congratulations to you on it, because I spent all of 30 seconds on this. I think this is going to be a 60 burger. I think just Helvetic's outmatched. It's 63-3 is what I predicted in this game. I hate predicting blowouts. It's not something that I like to do, but I feel so bad for Helvetic across the board, because it has been rough, and Ken Hike being gone and Tim Haney going on IR, it just makes it even more rough. So
yeah, and I heard that injury was season ending.
Yes.
So I wish him nothing but the best and speedy recovery and get back on the field next year, because he's a heck of a D lineman. But yeah, I mean, in regards to me giving 10-minute previews for games like that, I'm just trying to give everybody their props. All right, shout out Carlton Aiken, one of the best there's only a few dual threat quarterbacks like us in the league, and I mean, he's one of the best. So I'm trying to give him all their props.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I just wanted to give you props for turning that into a 10-minute, because for me, I did what Jamal did and was like, next game.
Yeah.
And like I said, I really do hate doing it, but it just, this game just seems like it's just completely overmatched. So, the next game is an interesting one. It's a very intriguing one. The Cologne Centaurans against the Paris Musketeers. It's just intriguing just because the Centaurans defense, I think, is definitely a lot better than people realize. Yeah,
I agree with you. I kind of grazed over this one. I didn't even really put much thought into it, just because I'm such on the Paris bandwagon. I'm riding that thing till they either get knocked out of the playoffs or they win the championships. But yeah, Cologne's defense is definitely slept on. They've got playmakers. They're able to stop the run. They did a really, actually surprisingly good job against Madrid in that game. Offensively, they were able to put up points and keep it close going into the fourth quarter. I don't know how much of that is maybe Madrid taking it lightly. It's still a new organization, so maybe they were like, okay, we got a little bit of an off week. We don't have to, prepare as hard as we would against the Fire. Maybe that came into play or not. I do think Paris is going to come out of this bye week. They just lost a heartbreaker to the Fire before the bye. I know they wanted to get that dub. So I think they're going to come out of that bye week ready and prepared to really make that championship push that I've been predicting since the beginning. Zach is going to get on the MVP candidacy real quick. I think he's going to throw for 3 touchdowns and run for another one. I got Paris winning 34-17.
There is a question on here from Jamal. He wants to know, Zach said that Paris was winning the ship. How do you feel about their offense performance in the second half of the last 2 games?
Ooh, I don't want to be too in depth on it, but there is some decision making I saw in the second half, especially against Ryan, where as Paris, you get the ball on plus side of the field with under about a minute and a half left in the game to win the game, make a statement. And we throw a deep ball on first down into 2-man down the middle of the field. That made me, with my offensive mind, that made me throw something across the room, because I was like, you have playmakers all over the field. You have a minute and a half. Just march down the field. You don't have to get it all in one play.
Right.
If they're going to go man-to-man on you, 2-man, that they're you got a great running game. If you want to get hurry up, you can run the ball straight up the middle. If you want to attack the sidelines, you can do that with Austin Mitchell, who I don't think anybody's going to be able to match speed for speed.
No.
Instead, taking a shot on first down from your 45-yard line into 2-man, I was pretty frustrated with that one, not going to lie. But I do think that was just kind of a momentary lapse, I hope, if my prediction can stand true. But yeah, Jamal. From my offensive minded perspective, that was very, very irritating to see. But I think it was just kind of a lapse in the moment. I hope so, at least, if they're going to continue to make that run.
10 points is all they've scored in the last 2 games in the second half. 3, they had 10 in the game against Frankfurt, and then they didn't score against Ryan in that game. Luckily for them, this defense is actually still really solid too. This defense has been very good. So
Yeah, I'd love to
That's
see.
incredible too.
I'd love to see him get Austin Mitchell more involved. We saw him against
Yes.
Hamburg extremely involved, and then he just hasn't really made anything since. And I think that's not a discredit to him. I think that's more of a discredit to offensive game plan. Trying not getting him involved enough, not running maybe rub routes or switch routes or stuff like that. Utilizing his speed and getting him into open fields. So. Yeah, I think in regards to their second half woes, I think it's more of a misadjustment. Like I was saying with us earlier in the season, we weren't adjusting in the second half. The offense always makes the first move, and the defense adjusts to that. As the offense, you want to be able to then readjust to the defensive adjustments, and I don't know if Paris is really doing that right now. So I'd love to see them take that step and make adjustments of their own in the second half.
Yeah, and that's how I feel too. I feel like Paris is just more of a situation where it seems to be some questionable play calling, and I don't know if it's just because of the 2 early bye weeks for them too has really kind of played a kink into not being able to flow. I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens in this game. I predicted Paris to win this one 34-18. I think Cologne, like I said, Isaiah Weed's been a pleasant surprise to me this season, and I think Paris gets on the right track with this one here in this game, especially at home. Let's see. I'm going to put Zach to the test here. The next game, Berlin Thunder against the Prague Lions. Another one that on paper does not look like it's going to be close. The Berlin Thunder at this point in time, I know they've played 5 games, are the highest scoring team in the league, which was surprising to me when I looked at it. And I think the next closest is like 13 points behind them with the Raiders, and they had a 60 burger already. So this has been a pretty consistent offense for Berlin. It's just the defense has been some questions outside of Kyle Kitchens, of course. What's your prediction on this one?
All the talk for Berlin is surrounding Jacob Sullivan, and rightly so. Like, he is MVP candidate 100%. But what I love the most about watching the Berlin offense is Aaron Jackson. Yes. That dude is a baller. He was taking snaps from the Wildcat last week. He's jump balling. He's getting the hook and ladder on the sideline. Like, the dude is a baller. He's got size, speed, great hands, just like great routes. I mean, I love watching him play football. I'm a big fan. I think he's a huge part, and having that receiver that Sullivan can trust to, maybe the play's breaking down, I'm just going to throw him a jump ball. And that 50-50 ball with Aaron Jackson turns more into a 75-25 ball because he's just that type of playmaker. And I really haven't seen, I think Ryan last week was bracketing him with 2 players. And when you can get the Ryan Fire bracketing your American receiver, then you're a pretty daggone good football player. And that's really the only way I think anybody's been able to stop him is putting 2 on him. And I think, once again, the Thunder, they have the highest scoring offense in the league. They do a great job of putting up a ton of points against some really bad teams, and they put up a lot of points against the good teams too. So I think, nothing's going to change this week. They're going to put up I don't have them breaking that 50 barrier because I'm trying to be nice to Prague, and my boy Tyrese Johnson Fisher's over there, and I'd love to see Prague get him more involved. Like, his first game with them against the Hamburg, he had a rushing touchdown, and then last week I think he had like 3 touches or something like that. It's like, the dude's a playmaker. Like, you want to get your imports the ball. Like, at the end of the day, this is, your national players are what makes the team, but the import players, you want to have the ball. Right. And I'd love to see him get more involved. And I want to see Clark Hazlitt, get a touchdown in there. Shout out adventure athlete. That'd be sick. But I got Thunder winning this one 48-14.
48-14. You're nicer than me.
Yeah, I'm nicer. I know the Thunder, if they have the chance to run the score up, will run that score up and try and boost everybody's stats. So this could very well turn into a 60-14 game. But we'll see.
I don't have a 50 or 60 burger predicted on this one. I have it 44-3, and 3 points. I'm not sure. It's nothing against Prague. It's just they have a ton of changes that's coming through. There's a lot of changes, and there's some injuries, and we're still not sure about moving forward. I really do. I really do hope, though, I mentioned it last night, that I really do hope that Prague sticks with the league and continues to try to grow and keep this moving forward and try to eventually get themselves out of this, this bottom feeder status. Like, just stick with it and just keep grinding, and eventually it will come to you. And that's how I feel, and I hope they do it, and we'll see if it happens. But I hope that we see it. So, and hey, maybe maybe Perkins brings them to the promised land and gets them a win this year down the stretch. So.
Did they have an earned win last year, or was it to Leipzig?
It was a Leipzig game, so it was a default win for them last year. So they've never actually won a game in the ELF as far as a 4-quarter play is concerned. The Hamburg Sea Devils and the Frankfurt Galaxy. Now, this game to me could end up being the game of the week as far as competitively is concerned. Just because these two teams I think are fairly well matched, to be honest with you. Luke Zaraka and Markel Castle really haven't. They've had really good moments, but it still hasn't feel like they hit their stride yet, which could be dangerous for the league. Is this a game they put it together in your eyes?
Yeah, this is the OG rivalry, really. Like,
yes.
Back in 21, like these were the top teams in the league. Like, this is the OG rivalry, and Frankfurt and Rhein have kind of taken over the real rivalry at this point, but. This goes back to the very beginning of the league and being competitive. And I do foresee this one being competitive as well. I think maybe the talent level that was there in 21 is not going to be the same as on the field in 2024. And these teams are kind of in different areas than they were back then. Watching the Frankfurt Galaxy right now, I'm seeing Markel Castle getting open and kind of in the flat sometimes and that type of thing, and not really getting the ball like how he should. If you have the Offensive Player of the Year on your team, I think you should be getting targeted 90% of the time when you're dropping back. So I do think that's kind of a scary thing for the league, is the fact that the Luke and Markel connection really hasn't taken off yet. I do foresee that it will at some point, and maybe this is a game that it will. Hamburg coming off of they've played Prague twice and Paris, I believe. Is that their 3 games of the year?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, we saw them against Paris. They kind of got taken to the woodshed on that one. I do think they're in that tier right below like the Parises and the Fires and that tier, but they're in that middle tier where they're fighting to make it in there. I think that, like you said, stylistically and player-wise, like personnel-wise, this is a very good matchup. I am going to go Frankfurt on this one. We've got a lot of former Milan players playing on Frankfurt, and so I'm kind of rooting for them on the low. But I think something that I really have been kind of waiting for is the Javarian to what is his name? Why do I keep forgetting his name?
Jarvis McClam.
Jarvis McClam, yeah. Where has that connection been? Like, we saw the 99-yard touchdown week 1, and I don't think there's really been much production from that duo yet. So I really would like to see both the Markel and Luke connection and the Jarvis and Javarian connection kind of take it up a notch now that we're getting to the middle part of the season. But I do have Frankfurt taking this one 32-21. I think it'll be a close one, and Frankfurt just kind of pull away there at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Smith McClam connection needs to hit their stride, and hey, maybe that's dangerous for the league if they start hitting their stride, but the Castle and Zaraka connection is another one that I need to see get going, and maybe we're in for a treat in this game. Maybe this game ends up being 44-44, or 44-43 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it might be something crazy like that. I predict a little more conservatively. I picked Frankfurt in this game to win 22-20, but I could see with these two connections, this quarterback wide receiver connection, to possibly put up some good games and really possibly be the game of the week as well. So, and Jamal wanted us to let us know to take the over. Randy got really excited as Jamal was putting, in the chat last night, the spreads and all this stuff. He's like, where can I find it? So,
hey, if you're smart, take Zach and Zachary Bronkhorst in fantasy. I mean, you see the output. So
yeah, see Zach with the shameless plug right there. Awesome, I love it. All right, I don't have
it's a known
any.
fact that dual threat quarterbacks are better fantasy quarterbacks. I'm just
This
putting
is true.
that out there.
This is a very true statement. This is
It's scientifically proven. I guess mathematically, actually.
I was going to say, I don't know about scientifically, but definitely mathematically.
Yeah.
Mathematically, for sure. It absolutely has been. I don't have anything else, my man. Do you have anything else you wanted to give out real quick? Do you have any shout outs or anything you want to say?
No, I mean, shout out Jamal in the chat. I mean, he's moving on to different endeavors, kind of broadening out his YouTube channel over at Athletes Forum. Anybody listening, go give that channel a look, subscribe to it, like the videos. The dude's doing God's work, helping put the ELF on the map, and now he's kind of broadening his horizon to all aspects of football. So shout out Jamal. I know you picked against me this week, so we'll have to discuss that one on Sunday after the game. But yeah, shout out Jamal. Shout out to all the boys though, like Alex, all those guys. They're doing great things for the league, and I mean, I love trying to do the same. I know maybe our podcast doesn't get the outreach that the ELF Live does, but I love bringing attention to this league and talking ball. So yeah, shout out all the boys.
Yeah, for sure. And I mentioned it last night, so make sure you do go over to Athletes Forum, follow that. While you're at it here at Shady Sports Network, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button here, hit the little dingy, hit the little notification. We are trying to get this to expand and continue. Sam, I saw your question in the chat to me. You were wondering what we were at. I will tell you, Zach, that tonight is our highest viewership that we've reached since we started over time.
Yeah,
we usually hover. We
Some
usually have
of the guys at First Down Mag. Some of the guys at First Down Mag after the Barcelona game actually said they listen into the podcast and they love it. So shout out those guys if they're over listening or listening tomorrow whenever we post it on YouTube. But yeah, just shedding light. I try to bring every single quarterback, the props that they're due, no matter what team they're on. So everybody's equal in my eyes.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I feel the same way as well. And, we usually hover between 40 and 50. Tonight we've reached over 60. So shout out to everybody that's here listening and watching us here as well. And do follow everybody. I said it on X. X is a great source for it as well. We love, football here. Zach and I love talking at ELF and whatnot. So again, shout out to you, Jamal. Thank you for being in the comments. Sam, thank you for a platform as well. Zach, thank you for taking time out and talking a little football with me. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah, until next week, 6 p.m. Eastern, Wednesdays. I almost said Thursdays, and I said that's not right. Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, Summer Showcase Overtime. I'm Michael Washington. He's Zack Bronkhorst. And until next week, have a good one. Enjoy the games this weekend.